spent so many years peering through time, looking for you.
The idea of reversing the traditional end to any kind of superhero movie where it gets bigger and bigger and the city gets destroyed and whoever it is, the superhero saves the day, but there's a big old destruction going on. Well, this is the opposite. There's a big old destruction going on and it gets reversed. So by the end, the city is pristine. No one knows the hero saved the day because he's made time go backwards and reversed it all. One of our challenges was finding interesting ways of constantly telling backwards time. Every shot is stuffed with things falling upwards, explosions happening, puddles unsplashing, people unfalling over, all these things. So we're mixing together some footage of people going forwards in time. That's one of the conceits of the movie, that Doctor Strange and his friend and the bad guys are going forwards in time, but they are existing in an environment which is going backwards in time. So mixing those two things together is quite challenging. There are some digital humans in there, but there's also a lot of plate photography as well. So one of the big challenges there was, how do you have convincing footage of people moving forwards and backwards, but with the camera moving? Well, one of the solutions to that was to use something called motion control, which is a computer-controlled camera. So we could film Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange and the camera would be moving around him appropriately, record the move, and then reverse that same move and have the extras running through the frame. Now, when you reverse the footage, the camera move goes back to the original movement, but everyone who's in the frame, by virtue of reversing the footage, is now running backwards. So now you're mixing together people running forwards and people running backwards in the same footage. Once you get beyond that, of course, every frame is filled with explosions and fire and smoke. So a key thing is, again, blending those things together and then making sure that people aren't running through places where there's meant to be an explosion, or Doctor Strange hasn't got someone running through his cape or whatever, because lots of careful planning has to go in to make sure there's no intersections of the action. So that could be achieved by literally having some markers on the floor saying Doctor Strange will be here, but people do forget those things and they sometimes run straight through. Or it could be a case of doing something called body tracking. So we might look at Doctor Strange, work out that his arm is or his shoulder is here in 3D space by measuring the distance in the computer, and then having something bounce off his shoulder, so it really sells that he's in the plate by understanding the physicality of where he is. So we could put in some CG generated debris which would bounce off him and then go the opposite way. So there's a variety of different ways of approaching how you could mix these things together. This is a breakdown of one of the shots we did. Gives you some idea of the amount of layers of material that go into something like this. So you can see that's the plate photography there. So this was all shot at Longcross Studios, a set build along the bottom here, and then the top up bit of everything is digital and all the flying debris is digital. And you can also see there's a mixture of actors running forwards and then Doctor Strange in there as well, so shot on different plates and mixed together. And then the actual collapsing rubble onto the floor is a big challenge too, and the signs, because again we have to make sure that in this case it doesn't go through people. That's a nice little destruction shot because that sort of shows you, oh, that's what's there before and then that's what's there after. You save your money so you can see the whites of their eyes, and then you switch on the big renders, because certainly when rendering these cities and lots of big destruction like we did here, then there's a limit to how many times you can render something like that. You want to iterate for creative purposes, but that means you have to ignore various technical artifacts and issues, and then only when you are kind of zoned in on the look you want to get, that's when you crank it up and go for the big renders.
So much you don't know.